Mortgage Insider Show from Corona and Redondo Beach without our good friend Ted, who is busy closing out another deal. We don't know where he is, right? But we're blasting out to his social media channels as well as the Real Estate Mortgage Insiders channels and Craig's and my own. So we're just happy to have everybody here today. So thanks for joining us.
I'm trying to get on your level here. Let's see.
I can raise and go down. There we go. So, Craig was commenting that I look darker and darker every day, and it's something about my lighting here. I don't know what it is, but same old Scott. I have yet to see the sun because I've been stuck behind this desk cranking away at stuff. So, Craig,
right, man.
And I got a program I want to tell you about, but I'll tell you about it later. But tell us about what are you seeing? What's going on in Corona? Is there anything going on that you want to specifically talk about?
Well, I don't, because I think what it'll do is scare people. The market is so hot, and I think part of it is because we just don't have a whole lot of inventory. Today we've got 121 homes on the market. What did we have last week? 140 something.
140 something. Yep.
Yeah, and then the week before that was 190.
I mean, that is a tight market. Let me ask you this. I was on the phone with a borrower, and one of their concerns that they had for me, I was just be curious about your perspective. So let's say that you're listing a home, you got multiple offers coming in, and one of your borrowers is coming in with an FHA loan versus another borrower that's coming in with a conventional loan. Mm-hmm. And let's say they're coming in at the same price point. Would you tend, all things being equal, to suggest to your borrower to go to the conventional loan versus the FHA?
It might put them in a better spot.
Yeah, I think so too, right? Because there's less opportunity for there to be a potential issue, because if an FHA lender comes in and there's any kind of issue that comes in on the appraisal that requires a fix, there's no getting around it. You're not going to get that loan until it gets done, right? Conventional, you may not have that issue. You agree?
Yeah. I personally, as a listing agent, and I represent buyers and sellers pretty equally, I don't care. I think FHA loans tend to be easier unless the house has some issues. And so
that's it. So if you don't have a concern about the house, then I would say I agree with you. Then you go FHA, right?
Right.
And that's what he was asking me, because I guess some of the properties he's looking at are older properties, and that was one of his concerns. But that came up in the discussion, and then we have, we talked about the California program, which is already maxed out, right?
10 days, man.
Gone. And it kind of blows my mind that they would come out with a program like that and have that kind of cap on it. It's almost like, why? It's a drop in the bucket. Or unless you're trying to prove that people would use it and therefore maybe go for more budget later. What do you think? Have you heard anything on that?
Well, I've heard a couple things, but I'm with you. Like, why in the world would you only? So here's the funny thing. I heard that California thought these funds would last for about 6 months. $300 million seems like a good chunk of change, but when you average, house price at 600,000 and across California, that's 500 homes. I mean, it's nothing, right?
It's nothing.
And again, here, let me just look. Corona closed. Well, Corona's got 226 homes in escrow right now, and closed over the last 30 days, 162 homes. That's just one city. And we're in a small city, but we're not a large city. You know what I mean?
Right. So it's a bit crazy to me. And if I think about what this could mean for the state of California, right? They are participating in the gain on the property. I mean, I always have mixed emotions about the government getting involved in in commercial enterprise, right?
Right.
But if I set that aside and just look at this just purely of, would this be good for the state of California's fiscal coffers, and is it good for the individual that's buying the home? Right. It would seem like to me, if you measure both of those, this is a total score. Now, the only downside I can see to it is, does it potentially artificially inflate home prices by producing more buyers in the market? I guess that is a potential, but certainly not if it's only a $300 million deal that they're putting out there, right? It's not going to have any impact at all. So, yeah.
So, the cherry on top of my point is,
Yeah.
You can't trust the bean counters in government. 6 months, it lasted 10 days. It's ridiculous, man.
Well, and I would bet you if you would have went to anybody in the mortgage space and given them 1 day to come up with a projection, they would have gotten much closer to the reality. Because the moment you get it out there, because we talked about it, other mortgage people that I talked to about it, they all said same thing. You got to get your deals in fast because this is not going to be here for long, right? So,
well, 100 million of it was not captured. It was spoken for in the first day.
Right.
1/3 of the money. Another lender who I've known for a long time said, California thinks it's going to be here for 6 months. I think it's going to be 3 months. And a few days later, she said, well, I just did the math. I don't think it's going to last 2 weeks. And she was right.
Yeah.
10 days, man. But hope is not lost. There are still some good programs out there. And some of the money that was committed, I heard that they were doing it the way that it's not allowed. So, lenders would go, okay, well, we've got offers out, so I'm just going to go ahead and put one of these offers in the system, unsigned, unaccepted. So we'll probably have a good chunk of that come back. But again, how long is that going to last? Another day or two? But the point in all of that is, if you're shopping right now, if you're not shopping, you're going to miss out on it. If you're not in the market, you're not pre-qualified, you're not ready to go. When that money becomes available, you're going to be too far behind the 8 ball, which is kind of what happened with a lot of people. But if you're shopping, you're in the market, you've been pre-approved, not qualified, but pre-approved, and you know a program that's going to work for you, and then this one comes back, that's forget that other program. That was great, but this is better, right?
But that's where you're going to have to be to take advantage of those dribs and drabs that come out of the program as some of the money becomes up. You're going to have a deal that is like right there at the edge, and it just becomes a bonus on your closing at that point. It's not going to make a difference because, it'll make a difference to that individual in terms of that closing, but they're going to have to go through the process as if that's not available, which brings to mind, we have a lender, and I think they came out with this program because of what's going on in the state, and they're doing it more than just in California, but they are supplying the money on it. If you go out for an FHA loan, at 3.5% or 5% down, they've got a program that will supply those funds. So you're basically getting a 0% down payment on loans through them. Now, I got to say, the money's not cheap. As they tend not to be when you're, because clearly, if you look at FHA, even when you look at FHA and you look at the rates and say, oh my, that's a great rate, but then you got mortgage insurance on top of that. And a lot of people, immediately they don't think about that until they get into the program. This is something where, because it's the highest risk dollars on the loan, so it makes sense. The lender's going to want more money for that. But if you find a good property that you really want to get into, it could be a great way to get into it. And, I think about, if you had a loan and you had this FHA loan and you leverage that program, so you got a 0% down going into it, and then one of those slots opens up with a state and you're close, you grab it, you go, take advantage of the new program. And, and I could make a case that you still wouldn't want it because you are giving up 20% of the equity gain, right? But I think it's super fair. I think it's, I've heard some realtors and lenders say it's not fair that you give up 20% of the upside. I'm like, I think it's phenomenal that you wouldn't have been able to get in the house otherwise, most of the people.
Right, because you're paying, your payment is on 80% of the purchase price. So you're already getting a benefit. You're not paying mortgage insurance, you're not paying interest, and you're not paying on that loan. Remember, we talked about my first house. I got, the 80% was at 6.5% interest rate, and the 20% down that I got for free, wasn't free, but um, uh, made it a zero down, but that was at 11.5%. So you're going to pay somewhere. And the good thing about this is, rates seem to be trending downward.
Yep.
If that continues, refi and get the state out of your business, and so you can minimize how much. And this is actually, it's a win-win. So the program's a win-win for the state and for the consumer. It's not for everybody, but for the right fit, it's a win-win. And when you refi and pay the state off, and so there's the win-win, you're now reducing how much you're going to give them or share your equity with, and it puts money back into the system so somebody else can benefit from that.
And that's exactly, that's what I love about it, because you're feeding it back in. And
right.
I remember when I first read a long time ago, and I'm drawing a blank on the gentleman's name, but he came up with micro lending programs in third world countries. And the whole program was built to support entrepreneurs in third world countries. Like, as an example, and one of the examples we'll never forget about, there was a gentleman in a community and was fixing bicycles, and basically all he had was a hammer and a screwdriver. He just needed more super basic tools, and he didn't have the money for it. So he got the tools, and then he ends up building a thriving business that employed multiple people working on bikes. He paid off his loan, and with the money that was generated from the paid off loan, they did many other micro loans in the community. And slowly but surely, they built up a community of people that can support themselves. This program gets to do the same thing, because more and more people get into properties that they're actually owning, and so they can participate in the long-term upside of real estate and the tax savings, right? And it's just, it's frustrating. And I talked about this in an earlier show. There was an article about a couple in LA earning $225,000 between the two, both earning over 100 each, and they felt like they could not afford to buy a property in LA because their income wouldn't support it. And they weren't able to set aside the savings to get the 20% down, right? And then it would have been a real struggle for the payments. But it's a crime when people can make that much money and can't get into a property. And so I think the more we can do to encourage people to get in and make them good members of the community, because they want to maintain the values of the property. It's been shown time and again, when you have more homeowners that live in a community versus renters, long-term appreciation is better, safety is better, more people are more politically involved to get things done for the community. It just reaps all kinds of rewards. So I really hope they look back at it and do more with it.
And I would argue that perhaps you don't want to buy in LA anyway, and perhaps buying in Corona. You're going to get a newer house, a lot more house, a lot less money. The neighborhoods are stellar, and man, LA's passing all kinds of laws that are just crazy right now. So,
I would agree with you 100%. And I think, if you take a look at what you can do by taking a property in Corona, pick up a property in Corona, much more affordable, got great appreciation there. And if you also take into consideration that a lot of people today can do the majority of their work from their home, commute in 1 or 2 days a week, Corona is a great place to commute from to a lot of different areas, especially if you've got flexibility on when and where you're commuting to. I think if people were to do the math and look at what it means to them long term, owning that property in Corona versus renting something in LA. Well, a lot of times where they can afford to rent in LA, I'm not going to name the community, but where it was, where they were renting, not a great area. So, and we have a lot of those areas in LA, unfortunately. I'm fortunate. I live in Redondo Beach. It's nice. It's safe. But there are a lot of areas that aren't,
Right. So, quick story about a transaction. Again, not to scare anybody,
Yeah,
um, but perhaps to light a fire if you're on the edge. Um, and to highlight why it's so important to get with an agent who, first of all, has gone through markets like this before
yeah,
and knows how to get offers accepted. You were talking about your friend with the FHA versus conventional.
yeah.
Um, you know, I, I would be able to sell a conventional loan a little bit better, but I mean, I still represent people with FHA. That's their only option, and we win out.
Sure.
Um, so everything's got to come together, and in the long run, I think it's the right house for the right person. It's just going to come together. It's going to happen. Um, uh, the story I was going to tell was I'm searching for a buyer right now, and we came across a house that was $615,000, had just hit the market. I'm sorry, 600,000 had just hit the market. It was on for less than a day. Already had 6 offers and 2 more coming in.
Wow.
Um, I'm sure the price went up. I didn't ask. Of course, if my buyer wants to move forward on it, we'll have to find out,
Yeah.
where that's landing. But yeah, man, it is imperative to get out there and start looking. I heard over and over, Craig, I'm going to wait until the prices go down, or I'm going to wait until interest rates go down. Well, interest rates go down and prices go up. Prices go down
Right.
because interest rates went up. That's the market that we're in today. This is not 2008. It's not going to crash, and it's not caused by these outside forces. It's caused directly, our market changes are directly caused by interest rate fluctuation. So,
Nope,
uh,
you're absolutely correct, and it's you know I think we're going to see more action this summer. I think that if people are in the market, I think now's the time to get in and start taking a look at it. We see those interest rates drop off, and as hot as it is now, it's going to go crazy this summer. So it's certainly a time to start looking. And as we always say, and you and I have talked about this many times, get pre-qualified. Get pre-qualified. Don't get ready so that when you find a property, you can pull the trigger. Nothing's worse than finding a perfect property and you haven't submitted paperwork so that you can actually do the deal. It's just crazy.
right. And
you know
even getting into the market, I liken it to a river. The river's just rushing by, and the second you get in the river, it could drag you with it, and you feel like it's a little out of control. I've got buyers that get into the market, and we're looking at homes, and they've got 5 or 6 homes they want to see, which is about the max that I'll show in one day because you just lose your mind.
yeah
They want to see 5 or 6 homes. I'm calling on them, multiple offers, just accepted an offer. So these homes it's like, again, it's like jumping in that river, and you feel like you're just out of control, and you can't grab onto a log or anything. But once you're in the flow, then you start seeing those homes come up and you can snag them. But even if you get pre-approved or pre-qualified and you stay out of the river, you're still going to have
yes
you're still going to have that when you jump in. So you've got to do it and jump in. Then you're in control, and you can say, "Yeah, this makes sense. I'm going to go ahead and make an offer on this home," or, I'm going to wait." But at least you're in the river, you're in the flow, and you know what's going on.
Well, because and you make a really good point, because when people are out looking at homes, if they've taken a look at enough of the base of homes that are there, they're able to identify whether or not a home meets their needs and hits the value points for whatever their particular situation is, right? Because
Mhm.
you went out, once you've seen 20 homes in the area, right? You've got a pretty good feel for what you can get for the dollar and which properties are going to tend to meet your needs, and because you got to be ready to pull the trigger, right?
Mhm.
And because the properties, it's like, geez, they're getting so many offers so fast. So um interesting market for sure. And
Here,
And you know what? We keep seeing great new loan programs coming out. So there's a lot of stuff out there that people can take advantage of. So they got to take the time to look, prep all their stuff, make sure you keep your credit in good standing order, right? You got to stay on top of that. Make sure you don't. God, I had somebody we were talking to, and their credit took a hit because they missed one credit card payment. They had the money, they just missed it. It's just like, oh my God, please,
Yeah.
you're killing yourself. You know, but it happens.
It's rough. So we were looking back. Oh gosh, we lost that
Yeah.
that California Dream program. We looked at the current market, and by the way, one pro tip that I wanted to mention:
Yeah.
as you're looking at homes and you're getting out to see homes, you'll see homes that just look fantastic. Those pictures are great. It's just ooey gooey, and then you get to the home, you're like, oh my gosh, this is not what the picture showed. Here's the pro tip: just the opposite is true sometimes also. You look at a home and you're like, oh, those pictures are horrible. Pass, pass, pass. Now, that might be the home to go take a look at, because those pictures just may be a bad representation of the perfect home. That's that. Sorry, I'm getting a call. I thought,
You know what? I like what you said there, because that also means there will be others that have overlooked that property, and sometimes that can lessen the competition, right?
Exactly. I'm glad you brought that up, because that's was something that I wanted to mention but totally forgot. That's what cameras do to you.
There you go.
And then, so now we should look to the future. We should always be looking to the future. Forget about the past. It's in the past. You had a program that you wanted to talk about, or did you already?
It's this. Yeah, I did. It was the one where you can basically, it's 100% financing on an FHA based loan. It's a little bit more expensive, but if it allows somebody to get into the market and start seeing the savings and the appreciation, I think it makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
It depends, because a lot of first time borrowers, they're fighting one of two issues. Sometimes they're fighting both. Some is they don't have enough income to get to the mortgage payments or the mortgage loan level that they want to get into the house they want. That's one issue. But then the other is those people that make the income, but they don't have the savings to support it.
Right.
This program helps those types of people. It's harder when you don't have the monthly income number to hit the targets for debt to income ratios. That is a more difficult problem to resolve with loan programs.
Right. Which reminds me to talk about what we talked about last week. Cars are a liability. Boats are a liability. I know people love boats, but you know what? If you've got a boat payment or you've got a car payment, $700,000 car payment, or 700.
That is a great car. That is a great car. Yeah.
Better be.
Better be, right?
$700 car payment. That's about $100,000 worth of house that you can now not afford. So don't get those crazy car payments.
No, you know what? You're absolutely right. And you know what? You can get people don't like to hear this, but 3 and 4 year old cars, man, the depreciation has already been taken. Don't wrap up. We shared a borrower that had a $1,550 a month truck payment.
Yeah, it's crazy.
On their credit. It's just, oh my God, and it's not like it was a truck for their business. I could get it if it was, but anyway, yes, please, if you're close on income, don't do that. Put that income into your property, and then 5 years down the road, you can buy a car that's twice as expensive. We'll discourage you to do it then too, because I want to get you into investment properties, but hypothetically, you could do it, right? So, yeah.
And that could be the difference from a neighborhood that you don't want to be in. Everybody's always shopping a little bit above their budget, right? Well,
that's right.
If they didn't have that car, boat, or RV payment or whatever, then they could actually be where they want it. Of course, they'd look above that too, but they could actually be where they want to be.
Exactly.
And then when they've got some equity, because equity is not one for one like it is in the stock market. You put $10,000 into the stock market, you're earning on that $10,000, but you put $10,000 into a house, you're earning on the value of the home. So if it's a $5 or $6 or $900,000 home that goes up 10%, stock market goes up 10%, you just made $1,000. Whoopee! That's great. But on a $600,000 home, it goes up 10%. You just made $60,000.
Yeah.
It's
all about that leverage, right? I mean, this is the one investment category where you can leverage other people's money, the bank's money, and the bank. The bank is leveraging the federal government's money, right? So they do it based upon their deposits. They leverage those deposits. So everybody's leveraging. Bank's leveraging. You're leveraging the bank's money. And it's a way to do it. Plus, you're also taking advantage of the tax code, which encourages people to put money into real estate. And our entire financial model is built on this system, and all the incentives have been built to do it. So if you don't take advantage of it, you're really behind the 8 ball. I mean, it forces people to work a heck of a lot harder to put retirement dollars away when they don't have a piece of real estate to help them do it.
That's for sure.
So, well, Craig, before I knew it, we're sitting here at basically a half hour of talking about good stuff. Yeah. And, since Ted wasn't here, we didn't do our secret something about you from the past. So, I'll save up my great secret for next week when Ted's around. But the one segment that he always kicks into is, where would you take us? So, I always like to hear about your recommendations and what you might try. So do you have a recommendation for us in Corona, or a place that you'd recommend that is drivable from Corona that you would suggest that you take a look at? So see, I'm opening your window, so you got a little bit further.
I'll go a little further next week.
Okay.
So I'm going to keep it in Corona. We've got the west side of Corona, which is closest to Orange County. And then we've got down the 15 and I guess it would be south. There are 2 different bars. They both happen to be Irish. Let's see. One is Boondocks. The other one is, oh man.
O'Reilly's.
I'm so sorry. This other bar it's like Malarkey's or something like that. But anyway,
all right.
2 bars. They both do karaoke. So you want to get liquored up and go do some karaoke and take an Uber home. Sounds like a fun night to me. Of course, you'll never see me up there. I tried once. My wife is a singer. She's got a beautiful voice, and the one and only time we did karaoke, of course, she slayed it, right?
Right.
We got up there, and I thought, well, I'll do, I'm an old punk rocker. And I used to, this is crazy. If you remember the band Chumbawamba, they were pretty much.
Actually, I think I've heard of them. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I get knocked down. That whole song.
I think. Yes. Okay. Yeah. There we go. Yeah. See?
All right. Well, they were a hardcore punk rock band back in the day. They had this one hit that went crazy, got some radio play and all that. So I thought, well, I'll do a little Chumbawamba. Oh, it was a train wreck, dude. It was horrible. So you will not see me on the mic, but I do enjoy listening to other people be as good as my wife or as bad as I was.
I am one that has zero voice. If I'm singing, it's an absolute train wreck. I will sing happy birthday for people because, I hope that my voice gets buried in the crowd. And I love a good celebration, but that's about it. And I'm going to give you my spot, which
hold on,
go ahead.
Shamrocks.
Yeah,
that's the other place.
Shamrocks. See, there you go. That is a name. I should have guessed that name. That was a guessable name right there. I should have tried that. I tried O'Reilly's, but I could have done Shamrock too.
Hey, O'Reilly was good. But
Yeah.
I couldn't leave them hang and do them dirty like that. So I had to look them up.
I appreciate it. Appreciate you stuck up for him in the end. So mine is going to be, have you heard of Little Door?
What is it?
Little Door in LA? It's
Huh.
called Little Door. Little Door. So Little Door, it's a French restaurant. It's been around forever, but it's around it's on Melrose. It's on either Melrose or Third. That's down in the Hollywood area. And what I love about this place is when you're driving by on the outside, you look at it, it doesn't look like much. And there's actually a little door, vines all over the wall. You go through this door, and then you enter into what is the most beautiful courtyard. Kind of got the romantic, cool lighting, phenomenal food, and it's just consistent, right? It's consistently great with a rotating menu that's really, really good. And if you want to go out, take your spouse to a really nice place, enjoy an evening out, good cocktails, great food. Highly, highly recommend. So one of my favorites, and it's been actually, I think the thing it's got to be 20 years old, but it's one of those places that has stuck around because it's just so good. So anyway, that'd be my LA recommendation. So
There you go.
but I'm not going to take you there because I don't want to take you out for a romantic dinner. So not going to do it.
How's the pricing? It's on the higher end of pricing.
It's a little higher end. It's a little higher end. So you're you want to go in with the knowledge that you're going to spend a couple $100 to get a really, really nice meal. But it's really good. It's really good. It's one of those places that I think is worth it for a special occasion, but not my everyday place for sure.
Awesome.
All right. Well, hey, everybody, thank you for listening to Craig and I chat about the beautiful market and what's going on. And we look forward to having Ted join us again next week. And please continue to tune in, and we'll tell you about what's going on in Corona, what's going on in the loan market. And we hope that you find all of this enjoyable, and we'll tell your friends about our program. Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks, Craig.
Thank you. Thanks, Scott.